Okay, hey everyone. Today I'm joined with Terence Ng, a former Team Canada Taekwondo athlete. So yeah, thank you, Terence, for joining me.
Yes, thank you. My pleasure.
I'll just be asking you a few questions and then answer them however you feel. So
All right.
yeah, my first question for you is, why Taekwondo, right? Because it's not a really common sport that I see a lot of kids playing, but it's also very physically demanding sport and really takes a lot of discipline to master and to train. So I just wanted to ask you why Taekwondo, even though I know you can play a lot of sports. So yeah.
Right. So yeah, you're right. I could have played like volleyball, basketball, but for some reason, I just decided to choose Taekwondo. So when I was really young, my mom just let me try every single sport. And I remember trying all of them and I found out that Taekwondo was the funnest, right? Because not only am I just working on myself, I'm like making myself stronger. I can also learn how to protect myself, which is also a really important thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just stuck to Taekwondo and just luckily I got pretty good.
So I know your brother also plays taekwondo. What
Right,
role do you
yeah.
think he played in you like improving so much throughout the years and like really staying disciplined to your craft?
Right. So the thing about Taekwondo is that yeah, you have to be very disciplined and as a kid, you don't always stay on track, right? And having that someone like a someone to look up to, they will always keep you back on track. Like let's say if I were training and I just slack off and not finish my sets or my routine, but my brother being there, he would be the person saying, "Oh, Terrence, get back on track. You're going off. You got to stick to it, right?" And basically throughout my entire taekwondo career, he's just been that person to help me get back on track every single time. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I know like taekwondo is a lot about discipline and
Right.
self-control
Yeah.
and really like
Hmm.
holding yourself back. Do you think taekwondo has really like taught you valuable skills in life as well? Like, that extend past like just taekwondo?
Yeah, exactly. So, every before every class we'd recite the Taekwondo
Yeah,
tenets,
yeah.
right? Right. And those tenets are like really important in life, right? So self-control, indomitable spirit, and in life you can use these traits and values with anything basically. So the discipline part and just like grinding through probably is the most like the major one, right? Because I mean, we're about to go to university, and you're grinding through all your homework and studies, and learning that discipline early on, it will really help you push through. So yeah, that's
Yeah. Okay. That's so cool. Yeah. I did taekwondo and I realized it wasn't for me. Too much discipline. So yeah,
yeah.
there's that. But
Hmm.
the next thing I didn't want to talk to you about is, obviously you talk a bit about how, disciplined you were, but obviously that discipline amounted to something, right? Because you played for Team Canada. Yeah, you went to Taipei for
Yeah.
international and a global event. So can
Hmm.
you talk a little bit getting recruited to that team and like what was that process like?
Right. So to get to Worlds, you have to first win nationals, right? And even though you win nationals, you're not necessarily guaranteed to represent Canada. That's the unfortunate thing. But Um, luckily, I had connections with the Team Canada, right? At Team Canada Taekwondo, and um, I was just picked by the grand headmaster or the CEO of that, and they told me, "Hey, Terrence, would you like to go to Taipei with us? We'd love to have you represent our country and everything." So that was basically it.
So when you were there, what did you feel like the competition there was a lot more harder than nationals? Like what
Oh,
talk about that process, like or not the process, I mean the experience there, because it obviously must have been really fun, but also really stressful and competitive.
yeah, 100%. So, you know, like winning everything and like winning a lot of medals and trophies in Canada, right? I thought I was pretty good, but then when I went to Taipei and I started seeing other countries like USA, Korea, those powerhouse countries or China even, and they started just practicing, and I think I got humbled really quickly actually. So, um, uh, yeah, so just seeing that like how much better they were. Like I'm not too far off from them, but just seeing how much like more effort that they put into, like for me, I'm a student still, right? And I want to go to university and everything. But for other countries, they pour everything into Taekwondo. So they
Yeah.
eat, sleep, and just do Taekwondo every day. And yeah, I just by looking at them and their dedication and stuff like that, you could just see how much better they were. It's yeah,
So
eye
like
opening.
connecting with that, I know how much you value and your parents value being like a really good student, but also being
Hmm.
really dedicated to Taekwondo. So I just
Right.
wanted to ask you, how did you balance like, being a student athlete, like that whole I know you also played other sports like volleyball, but like how did you
Mhm.
balance like all these things and end up becoming really successful in both?
Right. So yeah, it's just time management's really important, right? Because right, obviously I don't just do taekwondo every day when I come after school. I still need time to study, right? And I'm still a human being, so I still need time to relax. So when I make my own set schedule, let's say for what I did was that I actually practiced 3 hours every day. So that 3 hours every day is just set. And let's say if I were to, I had a test coming up or something, I would actually just uh I would train 6 hours the day before, right? And leave space open for me to study. And yeah, sometimes it wasn't perfect, right? So like sometimes my time management wouldn't be the best, but yeah, you just need to grind through, I think. Just grinding through is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, it's obviously valuable because, and what I get from a lot of athletes is that sports is like really unique in the way that it teaches you time management
Hmm.
skills, but
Right,
also
right,
like
right.
discipline and being confident. Because I feel like that's a big thing that sports does rely on. And then
Hmm.
kind of moving on with that, I know now you don't compete as much as you did, but I know you're still involved with Taekwondo, and I know you still
Right,
go
right.
to the dojo, and you're still working on upgrading your becoming higher and higher degrees, right? But I also wanted to talk to you about being a coach and what that means to you and how you proceed with that.
Right. So yeah, I recently, because I've been at school more and studying a lot, so I couldn't go back to competing, right? But being a coach actually, I think, is very rewarding in a sense, because when I was an athlete, yes, I did have a coach, but my coach never competed. So I had to experience everything for the first time, right? So like when let's say my uh everything was basically trial and error. Like my training routine before the competition or my sleep schedule and how I prepared, like mentally prepared for it, I had to figure it out all myself. But as a coach, through like
You know all these
experience,
things. Yeah.
exactly, I know how all these things. So I would teach my students and everything that, oh, like how you manage your sleep schedule, or let's say how you handle the stress, right? Because a lot of people when they compete, they just all that their efforts, right? I know that their skill is perfect, but then once they got on and they got nervous and then they just completely fell apart. So I would coach them mentally and tell them,
Yeah.
oh, there's these different strategies or different ways you can look at it and make yourself better prepared for it, right? So that's basically what I really enjoyed as being a coach, just helping other people with things that things I wished I was helped or someone gave me advice when I was competing.
So there's always that sense of reward, right? But I
Right.
also
Yeah.
want to ask you about going forward as a coach, and if you see that as something you would do, even extending to university. It doesn't have to be like a main job, but something you do like, continuously part time, because I know how much Taekwondo means to you. So is that something, would you be okay just leaving Taekwondo behind, or is it something like, that you'll carry on for a long time? And through coaching, through,
Mm-hmm.
practicing,
Yeah,
just,
because
yeah.
the thing is that, yeah, as I'm getting older, right, your body, I mean, it's because the thing about Taekwondo is flexibility is a really important thing, right? And as you're younger, like let's say I was grade 9, grade 10, like my flexibility would be much better than right now. And just by what you said was whether I would just leave Taekwondo behind, I don't think I would because I spent from when I was 4 years old all the way till now. And, just going through it and I don't think I can just, throw it away just like that. So um, I know that throughout university and stuff, I will still be coaching. So yeah, and later on, if I really do feel that I'm physically and mentally prepared, I'd go back to competing actually. So yeah.
Yeah. That's really good.
Mhm.
And then kind of again moving on then, I wanted to talk to you a bit about what your highest high in the sport was and your lowest low. Because I know you mentioned like going to Taipei and like kind of being humbled, but I don't think you were. I think you're being a little modest. But I know, but what do you think your high? Yeah, basically, what do you think your highest high and your lowest low is? Because I know emotions are really rampant in sports, right? So, what are some experiences you had?
Right, so probably my highest high would be, um, probably winning nationals, right? But I went
Hmm.
to multiple nationals, so I think it was my 3rd nationals where in I participated in 3 events and I won gold in all 3. So that was probably my highest high.
Hmm.
And my lowest low would probably be after the first nationals where I went to this invitational event, and that was actually my first ever like international event. So
Hmm.
it's not like worlds, right? It's just like a invitational. It's like a kind of like a US Open kind of type thing. And when I went there, I started competing against like USA and Mexico and those other countries, not just Canada. And I remember I placed 17th out of 30. And at that moment, I was like, wow. So the world is not just Canada, right? It's just so
Yeah.
much bigger. And just realizing that how much I need to improve was probably my lowest because I knew that there was just so much for me. Like it was kind of overwhelming because I needed, how do I put this? So it just gave me the awareness that I need to push myself and improve so much more. That's basically it. And um, yeah, that's probably my lowest low because I don't usually, yeah, to be honest, I don't usually place lower than like podium, right? So I usually,
Yeah.
one, two, or three. But yeah, just after receiving that or finding out that I placed 17th, yeah, that was probably my lowest low.
Did you feel
Yeah.
like you needed a loss like that then? Like, did that loss motivate you in a way that you
Oh
haven't
yeah,
been motivated
100%,
before?
100%. Yeah. So the thing about, athletes and stuff like that, you cannot just win everything, right?
Yeah.
It's just uh, like
It's
it's not
impossible.
possible, right? Unless you're just crazy, right? But I think that loss made me a better athlete. Like after that, my mindset, my motivation was completely different. Sometimes, like before that, I go to training saying like, "Oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to. I'm just gonna like don't really care about it. I'm just gonna go through this training and just go after that, just chill or something like that." But after losing that badly, I was like telling myself, "Oh no, I need to keep pushing through. I need to keep training, and I cannot get this result ever again." So
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. This loss was pretty important, and I think that without this loss, I wouldn't have been as successful as I was. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then moving on then, my final question for you is really, if you could go back to grade 8, would you do anything differently? And in other words, do you think you accomplished everything you could? And if you didn't, do you think you could have changed anything about it? Like in terms of taekwondo?
Oh, that's a really good question. So if I were to go back to grade 8, um,
Would
I
you
would
train
definitely
harder?
right, yeah, improve my work ethic and stuff like that. But for competition wise, I would tell myself to not be as nervous as I was, right? Because the thing is that I handled like nervousness pretty well compared to other people. Like
Mhm.
I'm pretty relaxed about it. But then at some times where I just be too overwhelmed of how people would look at me and how they'd say like, oh, right, this Terence won nationals last year, so he must be really good, and have they would have like a really high expectation of me, and I was worried that I would not meet their expectations. So I would tell my younger self that don't care about what other people expect you to do. If you just try your best, that's already good enough. So that's what I would tell
Okay.
my younger self.
So
Yeah.
instill some more confidence. And
Confidence, exactly.
do you I know learning a little tangent here, but is are you I think that's the big thing that you preach too with your coaching, right? Confidence is like
Mhm.
probably the biggest thing that
Right, right,
you
right.
could instill. I
Mhm.
was just wondering where you draw the line between like, cockiness and, being confident, right? Because I feel like that's also something that a lot of athletes do hit, like they're too
Mhm.
overconfident. And I feel like that's something you mentioned too, how you were a little overconfident before that invitational event you went to.
Right,
So I just
right.
wanted to know how you balance like, your mentalities and just staying humble, but also keeping like some sort of confidence within you.
Right, so, when you compete, confidence is really important, right? Because
Hmm.
if you just came out, like, to the judges and you were saying, like, "Oh, I'm like, look how, like, shaky I am," right? You won't obviously score high enough. But I think only you should only show confidence when you're competing. When
Hmm.
you're off, like, let's say we're off the pitch, off the mat, you shouldn't really show your confidence. You should be, humble, right? So let's say that people, um, ask you for advice, right? You wouldn't be saying like, "Oh, like look how I do it," and just this one's really hard to say, but um, or hard to explain. But just I think that the just to summarize it, keep your confidence on the show your confidence when you're on the stage, and when
Yeah.
you're off of it, just kind of tone it down a bit,
Yeah.
right?
I know
So
this quote. It's like, compete like you're first, practice like you're last. Like,
yeah,
stay
yeah.
really
Mm-hmm.
motivated. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, thank you so much, Terence, for coming on my podcast with me.
Yeah.
Have a Yeah, have a good day. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Aslan.